And now, foul demon, face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Hello, loony listeners. You're back with Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast, and I'm one of your hospital wards, Billy.
I'm your other hospital ward, Ray. And apart from the usual news that we'll have for you this week, we'll also be doing a panel-by-panel review of Lemire's Issue 6 Incarnations Part 1. So grab your issues, sit back, relax, and get your conchu on.
Alright, Ray, if you could have your life drawn by James Stokoe, Francesco Francavilla, or Wilfredo Torres, who would you have draw it?
Oh, that's a good one. I immediately would think James Stokoe because I just love how detailed he is, and I just love his art in general. But my gosh, the other two could easily have them done by them as well. But I'll go with Stokoe. How about you?
Yeah, no, Stokoe all the way. He's my he's my lovely detailed space drawing artist. He's I mean, if my life could be as exciting as fighting space werewolves on the moon, but
yeah, I think Francavilla would be really cool as well. I'm just thinking of what we'll dive into later on in this episode, but just his colours are great, and that kind of tone he gives. It's to me it's kind of like a mix between noir and a bit of horror. But yeah, I mean Stokoe definitely sci-fi element. Get me in one of those rockets.
Yeah. Well, Ray, it was kind of looking a small week until about 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Friday morning that something big dropped. Alex Alonso, I believe that's how you say his name, editor-in-chief at Marvel, released a page of artwork from the upcoming Moon Knight 188.
It was really great. It was kind of looking a bit sparse there with news. Like we were kind of blessed with the last couple of weeks of having some big news for Moon Knight. So things were looking pretty bare. But yeah, this page popped up, and I think it was one of our loonies, Joshua, who put it onto our group page. That's where I saw it actually. And yeah, what a cool page to speculate on or speculate on.
Shout out to Austin for that one.
Yeah, but yeah. So what were your initial thoughts for this page?
Yeah, I mean, out of all the pages to share, this one was the most, I suppose, the least revealing, but one of the more intriguing ones to share. Is it if you're checking our show notes, we'll have a link, or maybe you've seen it in the Into the Night, a Moon Knight fan base group, which is facebook.com/group/Into the Night. Mm-hmm. But anyone sort of joining us now, the page is set up in basically 3 panels. The first one is just a woman in her PJs brushing her teeth. The second panel's then her lights turned off, shadows almost covering the room as she settles into the bed, and she turns. We see a side-on panel. Side-on sort of angle of the panel, and we see beside her bed is actually a wall with Moon Knight's hood and cloak, and then photos of Mark Spector and Mr. Knight and Moon Knight. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I think my first reaction to seeing this page is that this character is going to be someone pretty big, at least in this first arc or first issue.
Yeah, it's it kind of drops a few things here and there. I remember your comment as well. You mentioned about the cat, and it actually took me a while because I didn't really zoom in. I didn't really see where the cat was, but I see the cat on the bed, and my immediate thing with that is, cats and Egypt, or mythology. So, I love seeing cats in there. But yeah, I wonder also as well if, so do you think this is just like a preliminary page purely with art? Do you think there'll be much lettering populated in there later on, or do you reckon this is the page as it is?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this page as it is supposed to be rather silent. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I think it could work either way. I mean, it definitely can work as a silent one as well. It's kind of like I can almost imagine it's like her almost daily routine.
Yeah.
Getting into bed and just being deep in thought. And yeah, she has this wall, sorry, closet, full of Moon Knight stuff. So she's either really obsessed or over Moon Knight, or she's just a big fan, or or she has something to do with him. So yeah, there was a lot of speculation as to who she might be, but I think the art is pretty decent. It's obviously not much is happening with action, but Burroughs I think does well.
Yeah, and there's we also learnt from this tweet who our colorist is going to be. One man named Matt Lopez.
Yeah,
And
are you familiar with this stuff? Or?
no, I don't think so. I don't think he's yeah, I don't think I've read a single bit of his work. I'll pull up his portfolio.
Mm-hmm. But so anyway, back to this page. So there were also comments as well, as you can actually see Mr. Knight in there and Declan Shalvey's Armored Moon Knight posted up. So it shows all the iterations of Moon Knight there. And I'm assuming it even has, well, it's got the classic one as well. So there were two trains of thought, I think, for who this person was, Connor. And I think initially everyone said, okay, could it be the Truth, which is the big bad? Or could it also be Dr. Emmett?
Yeah, well, she was our psychiatrist in the mental hospital that Mark Spector was in, which we still don't know whether was it truly a reality or just some weird psychosis. So it's 100% likely that this could be who she actually was, or maybe she's been involved in Moon Knight's life before, and that's why she was brought into Moon Knight's psychosis, or maybe it is just Dr. Emmett hanging out, not crocodile-like in the real world.
Do you think maybe, and I'm just spitballing here, do you think maybe there's a chance that this person, whether it be Emmett or not, will maybe don the costume as well?
Oh, possibly. I mean, I always come back to the title of this arc, which is Crazy Runs in the Family, which is such an interesting name, considering the only thing we really know is that there's a villain trying to sort of reveal Moon Knight from the shadows, which doesn't really almost seem to fit with that title. Like, I wouldn't associate that plot line with the Crazy Runs in the Family unless possibly related to Moon Knight. So it's by all means that maybe Moon Knight needs assistance against such a powerful foe that this woman here might possibly jump in to help out the extra crazy in this family.
And it's not outside the scope of what Marvel does, I think. I'm thinking, Connor, of is her name Teresa Parker? Are you following Spider-Man at all? Or?
No, not at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, it's really funny for Spidey fans as well. Out of the blue, Peter Parker discovers he has a sister, Teresa Parker. It turns out like there was some kind of convoluted reason behind it. It wasn't really his sister, but she was kind of made to think that she was. So, as you mentioned with the title Crazy Runs in the Family, I wonder if she is related to Mark Spector somehow. And yeah, if she does don the white cloak to become a Moon Knight, and then with the whole Legacy series, we'll have classic Moon Knight, but we'll also have maybe an introduction of a new version. Not too sure.
Yeah, and sort of I'd never even thought of that. The train I was sort of on to speculate was that she could possibly be the Truth, and that she has this big obsession with Moon Knight that possibly led to her wanting to take down Moon Knight, almost like do you remember the new Black Spectre who appeared in Warren Ellis's arc?
Yeah.
He became obsessed and tried to kill Moon Knight. Or possibly even she was a fan, and then I believe the god will probably be Horus here, attached, as we see in the Legacy lenticular cover for Moon Knight 188. So yeah, I think possibly the truth in that. Yeah, she just has this obsession that when you actually look at the page, you actually see Mark Spector in there. So this woman
Hmm.
knows Mark's identity. So
Yes.
I also kind of spitballed that that could get his supporting cast back into the picture by having her go after them, considering she'll have known all their identities, and that'll kind of,
Ah.
suffering brings everyone together.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, it is. It is kind of. It's baffled me as well. I like what you mentioned about her being the truth, and there being Horus. I mean, we know the big bad, and Bemis has said that the big bad is kind of like a counter or an opposite to Moon Knight. So, and obviously the lenticular cover, showing Horus. So Horus is definitely involved. I wonder if the truth is one in the same with Dr. Emmett, but then um, that would mean that the truth would be Amut. Um, and how does then Horus fit into
Yeah.
that? There are a few a few questions up in the air for this. I'm not sure. I'd like to see her probably as a vessel to get the supporting characters back in there as well.
Mm.
I think that could very much be if she does know the identity, and but let's not also forget that Crawley seems to and Marlene seem to be well aware. If we're basing it off Lemire's previous run, they're well aware of the situation more so than Mark. So they might even still be, kind of aware of the Moon Knight team.
Oh
But
yeah. Huh.
mm,
I,
I
I,
definitely. Sorry.
oh yeah. I was just sort of saying it really was such an interesting page to share out of anything you have out of a 21 page issue. So I think this was entirely sort of begin speculating and but
Mm.
it's done its job.
Oh, yeah, it was a very good one there. Yeah, good one to pick because it's just left us with just 3 panels. It just left us wondering a whole heap of stuff. So yeah, a very good teaser into the upcoming issues ahead. Um, we also got something else, Connor, as well from Jason Burrows
Oh yes.
himself. Yeah, on Twitter, he tweeted just a sketch. I mean, you can actually still see some of the pencil marks and some of the guides that he puts in, but he posted something of it was basically a foot kicking some thugs. Right, there were like 3 tattooed, thugs, and it could only be Moon Knight being the one dishing out justice.
Yeah, so we sort of, yeah, it's very much finally seen the action scene, but it
Hmm.
almost gives us insight into the look of Moon Knight's costume. It's kind of interesting because the robe we sort of saw on the covers made it look really traditional, but there's this awesome sort of armored look on as we see his boot that makes it
Hmm.
seem that almost it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and there's a little bit on his gloves and hand as well. There seems to be some armored padding. You can just see to the left
Oh yeah.
as he grabs a guy's head. So, it looks good. I'm glad he's kicking A to these guys because they look pretty they look
Yeah.
pretty bad. They got tattoos on the neck. They got a knife. So, yeah, just can't wait to see the action scenes here.
Yeah.
Jason Burrows then he titled this a little sneak peek for the full moon. So, um, immediately after I saw that, had a look at the leg and the hand, and just asked him, "Yeah, is that is that Moon Knight?" But yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, I love the way he has very much definition with the power of a full boot to the face, and I think it'll be a very weighty, some very weighty action scenes. I think you'll be able to feel every punch he's throwing in this issue, in the series, really.
I can't wait. I mean, Burrows, as we mentioned, his artwork is quite graphic, and I guess prone to violence and action. So I can't wait to see how he lays out these action scenes. And Bemis calling it a very cinematic kind
Yeah.
of comic book. So yeah, looking forward to non-regular kind of angles or perspectives, and just a whole lot of movement in his art. I just wanted to also go back, Connor, as well. Just briefly, we were talking about that page from 188, and I just wanted to make mention, Rebecca actually made a very interesting comment as well in it about who that woman was. And she mentioned that Emet in Hebrew equals truth, or is truth. So make of that what you will, but that actually just adds another layer of mystery to the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh. Where do we go from here? And then, actually, just while we're back on this page, I also love and I suppose with the kick-ass action scene, I love his facial work here. There's a lot of emotion in every face, even sort of the half shadow casted woman in the page 188 page, just her lying in bed is you can just see sort of what she's feeling without the lettering or any sort of text there.
He's quite an accomplished artist. I'm really looking forward to it. Interesting to see. I mean, we were kind of spoilt a bit with Greg Smallwood, and I keep on going on about how his backgrounds are really detailed, and how that adds so much depth to the pictures. This is only like one page, and just looking at it, it's great art. But the layout of the bedroom is quite sparse, which may reflect the character as well. But I wonder how much detail Burrows will put into the background. Probably not as much as Smallwood, but it'd still be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder when we'll sort of get our next teaser. We're now a little under 2 months away, being the 5th of November. We're recording on the 9th, so you gotta wonder how many more pages we'll get, or if we're kind of done for now until the end of October when we get a full 3-page preview of this issue. Or
I can't wait. It'll be great. And then a bit of lettering and kind of, how Valiant, they actually release a lot. Like, with their sneak peeks, they release like 6-7 pages, like almost a third, right? Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it's
totally.
About 5 or 6 pages, which is that's a big preview. I don't think Marvel don't do that, do they? They as you mentioned, they do about 3 pages.
Yeah.
But
I love that though.
it is great. I mean, the downside is that you read it and reread it and reread it, and then when the issue comes out, you kind of know it already. But anyway, it's definitely something to look forward to. And I think this must be purely by sheer luck, Connor, or maybe it is your fantastic planning. But we should be done with the Lemire series just in time for the first issue of the Bemis Burrows, right?
Yeah, as long as we don't really have a week break. We can pump out a full. Yeah, no, we're dedicated. We're never going to be leaving this. Never going to be taking a break.
No, but that's fantastic. It's so we should roll straight into the new series, which would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. We'll probably have time to sort of talk about where Lemire's left us, which was the plan all along with this sort of introspective back review. So yeah.
It'll be nice and fresh in our minds as we get into the new series. Sorry.
Well, if we're sort of wrapped up on this piece of news, I'll get you to introduce the next piece, considering you actually found this one online of an article talking about who the next 4 defenders should be. Yeah,
I found this on the Den of Geek website, and it's a bit more speculation, and it's Marvel's Defenders and who we'd like to see. Who should be the next 4 in the Defenders series? If we look beyond already, that seems like a distant memory. The Defenders. So there was a lot of names bandied about, but they came up with 4, which I think are very, very cool. I'd say thumbs up to 3 of them, and just a bit of a question mark on the 4th one. So the first one was obviously Moon Knight, because everyone's kind of waiting for him to make his debut on the screen, and that all makes sense. It's pretty obvious. The second one was the Master of Kung Fu, none other than Shang-Chi, which I think would be a great connection to Iron Fist from the Phase 1 of the Defenders, and he just happens to be yeah, I say this every week, but he happens to be one of my favorites as well. Only because he's just so grounded. Like he's basically a kung fu master. He hasn't got any superpowers. He can kind of control his chi to an extent. I guess not like the Iron Fist, but there are no fantastic or otherworldly powers to him. So for that, he's quite well grounded and easy to do, I think, on Netflix. The third one was a little up in the air for me, was She-Hulk. No, I think she's a great character as well, but we can discuss that a bit later. And the last one was Echo, which I think she's a greatly underused character. I really like her design as well. She's got just that hand print on her face, and the fact that she's got she's kind of like Taskmaster, right? She's got photographic memory for actions, so she can replicate anything she watches. Connor. So what do you think about these four?
Well, I think we could really have all of them. I've always thought about a She-Hulk show, and I'd almost love that as a same universe but separate from the Netflix. Like maybe carve out a new part with like Jester, Spider-Woman, and get sort of Patsy now called Trish in the Netflix show in there as well. So I mean, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I don't think they would do it, because I think possibly even just the CGI of having a hulked out character would, I think, be too much for their Netflix budgets to keep up. But I mean, she's one of my favorites. If they could do a very different sort of story than what we've come to expect from Netflix, then I think that'd be well. But yeah, I mean, I just kind of want Moon Knight right now. And I think looking at the other three, I think they could all be put in. I think Shang-Chi could be a good foil in Iron Fist season 2 or 3. And then I even think, we have Moon Knight series, maybe even set up from the Punisher. And I think, Echo's history with Moon Knight, you could almost do what Daredevil did with the Punisher. Echo shows up in Moon Knight season 1 or season 2, and then sort of goes off to do her own show. So I think they're all sort of very likely, and it all sort of interconnected as we've seen the Netflix shows do before.
Absolutely, with Echo. I mean, she's also got ties with Daredevil as well, so it really works. Yeah, she I think she was introduced. She was created by Brian Michael Bendis, and she was in his run earlier on. That's how I came across her, with Alex Maleev, so she kind of connects both Daredevil and Moon Knight. Look, I love. I do like She-Hulk as well. I'm just a bit wary about how the tone of her, how she would fit into Netflix. I can really see her in like an ABC.
True, production. That as well.
Because she's a little quirky as well. Which not to say that there's no humor in the Netflix shows, but I mean, if you put her side by side with Moon Knight, who is going to be dark, and Shang-Chi, who's I think is well known for really not having that much of a sense of humor. She-Hulk is kind of like a fish out of water. But look, she might do really well off them. And I agree that she should actually work really well with Trish Walker. I'd like to see her and Hellcat together. So Trish is already introduced into the Netflix world. So yeah, by all means, I'd love to see She-Hulk. But yeah, just with the groundedness of all the other characters, just to see someone with green skin in Netflix, it kind of immediately starts becoming, fantastical. Maybe not for me, but but Echo definitely. I really like Echo. I don't know why. Even the cool name, like it's very simple, and her skill set is very simple as well. But she's proven she can go toe to toe with Daredevil and definitely in Moon Knight as well. So they're no slouches in the fighting department. So she's pretty good.
Heck yeah, no. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'd be happy with any of those, but most importantly, just seeing Moon Knight in there. Just every week we pray.
Actually, also, Connor, it's funny. Have you seen or have you started watching The Mist on Netflix?
No, I saw that today. I wondered if anyone had actually started. Do go on.
There's only one little footnote. Eve was getting me to watch it. She's watched it all already, but she wants to watch it again, so it must be good.
Oh, there you go.
And so she said, "Oh, let's go watch the first episode." And I sat down last night, and there's one of the lead characters. It's the So if you ever get to watch it, it's the dad. It's the dad of the main teenager daughter. I reckon he'd be a good Moon Knight.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know his name. Let me just IMDb him at the moment. I think he'll be pretty cool. I've never seen him before anywhere, but he's got some good acting chops. Oh, I think his name, funnily enough, one of the lead actors is called Morgan Spector. I think that's what got me going. I think it's him. Morgan Spector. Morgan Michael Spector. So he's been in The Last Airbender, and he's been in The Drop and Christine. So I don't know. I don't know if you think the same as well, but he's looks pretty.
I'll give it a check and get back to it. I actually last week we were fan casting, but I forgot to give 2 shout outs to some of my always fan casted people with Riz Ahmed as Mark Spector, and for anyone who watched Iron Fist, and I've totally forgot the actor's name now. Look it up. The actor who played Davos in Iron Fist. If only in a world we could have him playing both, but I think
it's always possible. But I mean, but Davos is a pretty big character, so
I don't want him disappearing anytime soon either.
Yeah. Hey, let me just pull him up here. Davos, where is he? No, can't find him.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, actually, another footnote. Rick from the Facebook group was talking in one of the group chats. He said that in the new Venomverse #1 of the new event, that there is reference to a Venomized Moon Knight, and being written Colin Bunn, he may actually make an appearance. It was I haven't read it, but by the sounds of it, it was probably just sort of a throw-off one-away line, but who knows whether he'll make an appear in an event of that sort of scale, especially, Colin Bunn, Moon Knight writer, put him in Moon Knight Kills the Marvel Universe again.
That's so cool, because Bunn has actually done really well with that Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe again.
Hasn't he just?
And him having come off 6 issues of Moon Knight as well in 2015 or 16, he's got a really good hold of the character, I feel. So yeah, that'll be great. And can you imagine like a Venomized Moon Knight? That'll be just kick-ass.
Yeah, I hope we see it. So I may have to keep in touch with that one, and it's a side-on series called Anthology sort of Tales in this Venom universe called Venomverse War Stories, I believe. So may make a one-shot appearance in that. So I think I'll be following that. Both will probably. To find out.
We'll have to we'll have to keep close eyes on that and report it back to the group as well. So all you loonies out there, kept abreast of everything Moon Knight. So I'll have to dig deep into that as well. Just a quick thing, I saw Sacha Dhawan is
of course.
Davos. Yeah. So he would be a good Moon Knight as well.
Yeah, so in our final sort of fun bit of news, actually, Declan Shalvey on his Twitter put out some old drawing tests for when he was creating the Moon Knight, Mr. Knight look for Ellis's run. Yeah,
it was a good just little window to look into as to what Shalvey's process was. The first one was like 4 little sketches of Mr. Knight, and I think he said that C was his. He ended up going with C. Basically, the design is all the same. It's more so with the shadows and the tone, right? I kind of like B, Connor, which is a bit lighter.
Yeah, he made this comment that he sort of thought possibly those first 2 were a bit ghostly, and he wanted sort of a high contrast look for this Mr. Knight. But I think there's definitely a sort of time place that we could see a return of a more Spectre-like looking Mr. Knight.
Yeah, I mean, it says it in the name, doesn't it? So, I'd definitely be amenable to that as well. And he's got, just like rough sketches for a promo piece. It looks like it's really blown up, right? It's a sketch of Mr. Knight just standing in an alley. A nice little small sketch there. And the final one, which I thought was the most interesting, was he's got his original design for Moon Knight's bone armor, and it's based on old Anubis depictions. And it says he notes that Warren Ellis noted to go more nuts and to make it an actual giant bird skull. So that direction, one of the costumes for Moon Knight that we don't see too often is his bone armor, and you can thank Warren Ellis for having that massive helmet / bird skull. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that armor. I'd love to see it make a reappearance in this current run coming.
I can't remember what issue it was, but it turned up somewhere, and I think one of the heroes just said, "What the hell?" Said, "What the hell is that?" And it is. It's such a weird, random thing, for Moon Knight, and just the look of it is just so weird. I think it would freak out most people if ever you come across it.
I think Moon Knight has that effect.
He does, yeah, but this in a kind of like a totally different way. It's it's pretty funny.
Well, actually, I think another point is that Hassan of Strip Panel Naked will be doing a panel at Thought Bubble where he's running through a sort of list of creators, Thought Bubble being an event in the UK. He'll be doing a panel with creators and talking about the creative process, and I know Jordi Belair signed on, if I find, but possibly that Declan Shalvey will be as well. So, not only should you watch that as a great sort of insight into comics, but hopefully Hassan will put that panel online, and we may just see a bit of them talking about Moon Knight.
Oh, that's great. And Rebecca's going to be there, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Our eyes on the ground. she can report firsthand again. That's so cool.
Yes, like Jordi shall be confirmed.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, Jordi Belair, she's fantastic as well, but I think just the amount of work she does, it kind of reduces the probability that she'll talk on Moon Knight, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's got so much going on. So does Shalvey as well, but I really do hope, since both of them are there, that there'll be the old kind of alumni connection of, we both did Moon Knight, so let's talk about it. But I love those Strip Panel Nakeds.
Yes.
They were great. I always go back to the Shalvey one with that classic issue. Oh, can you remember off the top of your head, Connor? It's
Moon Knight 5?
Yeah, perfect. Of him going upstairs, and it was just brilliant. I really dig all that kind of thought and creativity with laying out stuff, and Strip Panel Naked just makes it so accessible for any person to understand how comic book artists think about how they want to lay out their art. It's really good.
Yeah, so if anyone wants to find that video, it's Creating a Good Action Comic, Moon Knight 2014 by Strip Panel Naked.
Oh, great. Well, we'll chuck that on the show notes as well. Too easy for loonies.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we sort of rolled from having no news till a Friday that led to a full bout of news. So I hope you got your loony filled and you're keeping up to date with us. But
yeah, for sure.
So we've got any other final comments before we move on to our big reviewer this week?
Ah, yes. Final comments for Moon Knight? No, just as we get closer to the Punisher as well, because there's always, from what we were mentioning before, a few other things are being dropped, like Frank Castle in his military gear, and I think just today I saw there was a little image of Micro's workshop. So again, that connection with the military and these new images popping in, I'm going to keep a close eye on any Easter eggs. But yeah, we'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah, me too. And there's actually been no announcement still for when that is, but we're still expecting November sometimes, and who knows when we'll get a trailer drop, or just the series dropping itself.
November's going to be a pretty cool month. We're going to have our Moon Knight comics coming out, and we're going to have the Punisher on screen.
Yeah, can't wait.
Pretty
Can't
cool.
All right, so we're doing a bit of a big one. If you remember our first look at Moon Knight issue 1 of Lemire, we did a panel by panel, and we're here to sort of kick off this new arc with Incarnations with Moon Knight issue 6 by Lemire, Stoko, Francavilla, Torres,
Hmm.
Garland,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Uh,
released September 7, 2016.
Yep, it's a really cool issue after that fantastic first arc. And as Connor mentioned before, we'll be doing a panel by panel analysis of this. So we'll try to do this at the beginning of each new arc, just because it's kind of fun to do, and it kind of sets the groundwork for the art in general later on. So we'll return to the usual kind of reviewing format after that. But yeah, let's rip into it, Connor.
Yeah, well, I just want to make a first comment that Smallwood is nowhere on this issue outside of a cover.
Yeah, I mean we are spoilt with three fantastic artists, but yeah, it's weird not having Smallwood there because he's just quite consistent, isn't he, with the whole Lemire thing? Like you tend to just associate Smallwood now with Lemire.
Yeah, and I think that opens up with some real story beats. So before we rip into that first panel, I shall just read the bit of a synopsis. It says, Incarnations, Part 1 of 4. Khonshu sent Mark and his allies on a harrowing quest designed to wear away the last of Mark's mind. This would free his body for Khonshu to inhabit and use to enter our world. But Mark resisted, destroying himself rather than allowing Khonshu to dominate the Earth. Then Stephen Grant woke up in his Manhattan apartment.
That's go cool.
Yeah.
And just the first comment as well from that little blurb. If you look up at Moon Knight, the image on that
Ooh,
page,
yes.
it's really weird. It's the I think the first and I'm not sure if only time that there's a bit of like earthy colors on there, and it's almost like a negative. If you look at Moon Knight's eyes there, yeah, I think it's like almost like a negative to what it should be.
It's the negative to what we saw in the sort of previous opening in the last few issues.
So that kind of already kind of jolts you, which is really cool. But that's a great summation of the of how we got here.
Yeah,
So
and it shows just sort of really how much of a villain Khonshu was in this end.
yeah, it highlights basically what we mentioned in the last episode about how he just designed this whole quest for them to get out of the hospital, but he was kind of manipulating everything in the with the intent to possess Mark fully. So yeah, so this issue opens up with we start off with Wilfredo Torres' art, and the first thing we see we have just two panels. First one's about 2/3 large. And it's Moon Knight, the classic Moon Knight, fighting a pharaoh.
Yeah, I think what I love about this straight up is, the way our comic book language has been set up in the previous issue is that we know the reality we're in immediately by having Torres' art. We know that this isn't an all of a sudden like an arc-to-arc artist shift off when Smallwood's left and Torres is the main artist. We know that we're looking at a different reality than what we've been living in for the past 5 issues, so it's just an immediate setup, and it's a really original look for Moon Knight. There's none of that sort of extra gear or look or just straight white and cowl.
It's very streamlined, and apart from his crescent darts, which he always has on his belt, yeah, it's just pure white. And yeah, great point. I like the idea how we've got our expectations already from Torres' art, so we know that the previous issue ended with Torres' art and Stephen Grant waking up, so we immediately know, for those that have been following the comic, that everything's based around Stephen Grant. But the first thing, though, here, apart from you immediately see it in the second panel with the boom coming in, but just for a split second, you kind of wonder, oh, what's happening here? Moon Knight's in Egypt. Is he fighting a pharaoh? What's going on? And then you see the boom mic come in, and it's like, okay, Stephen Grant. He's a producer, of course. So yeah, very good intro. And then the next page you get basically a splash.
Yeah, full 2-page spread.
2-page spread. There's quite a bit of detail here, not Stoko-esque detail, but there's plenty here to go around of basically a production set. And I always wonder, these faces that you see from the crew, are they from Marvel, or, you know? But basically what happens is that it's been cut because obviously the boom mic got into the shot of the camera, and the directors had to stop it, much to the irritation of Mark Spector, who happens to be the main actor.
Yes, interesting, straight off the bat. So yeah, we sort of moved from a big page spread to these little panels where we see Mark Spector's actually almost having a bit of a tantrum on set.
Yeah, a bit of a prima donna, right? Yeah, he's complaining that he's going to have to be rigged up again with the squibs, which in film speak are the packs that pretend to be the blood of the actor, and he walks off in a bit of a huff. And we see in the next two panels, we now see Stephen Grant and Marlene, and most of this issue, I think, will be, what I really liked about it would be the conversations between Marlene and Stephen. So you get to understand their relationship a bit more, which is really good. So they look and have a bit of a chuckle at Spector's tanty, and Stephen says, "Come on, let's get out of here."
Yeah, and I think what I love straight off the bat here with Torres' art, I mean, every artist in here, but we see everyone immediately set up with very distinct facial look. Like, we have about 8 different people on this page, and we have all their distinct looks and sort of actions, whether they're sort of pessimistic or Stephen Grant sitting in his chair cross-legged, a bit huffed.
Yes.
But sort of just looking almost at someone may look at children messing about.
Yeah. And again, Torres' art, that last panel of Stephen Grant and Marlene, just a really crisp, classic look of profile. So he's got his wavy brown hair, but just a classic look on the face. But you're right, all the other faces in the features, Torres ensures that they are kind of all individuals. So really nice.
Yeah.
Sorry?
I was just saying, as we move on to our next page, we get more of this really, really sweet and genuine Marlene and Stephen relationship as Stephen, well, there I go. Stephen complains about the film being a disaster, with Marlene sort of giving a bit of an elbow about his. We see here that Marlene's actually performing as Stained Glass Scarlet.
Yeah, so that explains does that query I had last episode of her wearing that red cloak, and I thought there was some significance to that, and I thought, was she like, Red Riding Hood, or was she evil because red was associated with a lot of the bad guys in it? But yeah, it's explained that she is playing Stained Glass Scarlet in this production. So yeah, that kind of ties that off. What is really cool about this panel, apart from the great art, but more so with Lemire's meta reference to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think that was just so brilliant how he's kind of introduced that in. While I was reading it, I was kind of thinking, ooh, are you allowed to to comment like that? But it was great. It was a great read. So he basically, Marlene and Stephen are basically talking about movies in general and comic book movies, and how there might be superhero fatigue, but how they do well overseas, so they're still successful. And so she cites actually the Ant-Man movie, which is really funny. And Stephen's talking about how if the director's not done it right, it just becomes a cliched mess. So there's a lot of comment on superhero movies, I think, which is pretty cool.
I love the sort of comments about Moon Knight being a third-rate character, and Stephen Graham wanted to use him to have a sort of a big introspective look at superheroes and mental illness and themes of identity, which is what Lemire's doing in this run, and the comments about it becoming a cliched mess. And we sort of see that Steven's having trouble with his new director on set, being paired up with such shoddy people.
Yeah. So there's it's pretty funny, and it's a great bit of work by Lemire, I think.
Yeah, and then actually, as we leave this page in our final panel, the conversation between Marlene and Steven is cut short as Steven's sort of suffering a bit of a migraine.
Yeah, he's not 100%. And well, I guess we kind of know that a little from the previous episode. He's still kind of finding his feet because, for all intents and purposes, he took a leap off a pyramid and offed himself, and then he woke up in the bedroom as Stephen Grant. So things aren't totally settled yet. So if we move on to the next page, this is really cool as well. He just hails a cab because they can't find their driver, and so both of them get in the cab, and it turns out to be it is Jake Lockley in there.
I don't know, actually. I couldn't figure that out myself. I mean,
it's confusing because what happens next, but yeah. Because I thought, like, he looks into the review mirror, and I think that was a great link, and you can see his eyes, and they're very similar in colour, and I'm assuming very similar to Stephen Grant's. So it becomes a very surreal thing here where he's almost looking at himself. Another little note is that in the cab, I noticed the number plate is Gast, I think.
Yeah.
It's I don't know if that has a special meaning in there, but so they're in the cab, and he's talking to the cab driver, who may or may not be Jake Lockley, and this driver's saying, "Oh, you want to go to Mercy Hospital because that's where their function is going to be." And let's not forget, Mercy Hospital is actually the hospital which started this whole series off, which is the mental institution. So Stephen Grant and Marlene want to go there because there's a function, and the driver's going, "Oh, you don't want to go there. It's not very good for you." And then this is where it gets weird, because you turn the page, and it's brilliant with Francavilla's art. It's almost iconic. A splash page here with the New York cab. And I'm not sure about you, Connor, as well, but I thought, I don't know, for some reason it looked quite iconic, the cab. It's like it's positioned right in the center. It takes up most of the 2 pages, and everything kind of works around it. And all of a sudden, we're with Jake Lockley's perspective now.
Yeah, and I love, I mentioned this last time with Stoko, but I love the sort of the way the panel always seems to grow down to a small before opening to this next big 2-pager that we see. We now see Jake's reality, and it's just immediately so distinct and so neon vibrant, and almost sort of Torres's art was, obviously detailed, but it was still sort of almost sort of a conventional sort of layout, being on just a movie set, it's just sort of our everyday reality. But this one's immediately seedy underworld, and Lockley makes mention of seeing that seedy underworld almost drain out into the streets, and you see that immediately with the way it's almost the light and colors almost work like water here.
And we discussed last episode with about the classic issue 12, Volume 1, with Doug Moench and Sienkiewicz, and how Sienkiewicz creates this kind of noir feel by having the street lights reflected off the windows. But we have Francavilla on this page. You have colours like pinks and reds on the street, which allude to reflections of light, coming from the neon, coming from the tail lights of the cab. You've got street lights peppered everywhere, and signage. You've got immediately in the foreground a garbage can. So exactly as you say, it's a seedy kind of look straight away. You've got the headlights beaming, so it's very much a nocturnal kind of setting, and the lighting that Francavilla does with color. So if you look at the top panel on the left with Lockley just driving behind the wheel, here half of him is purple from the lights, the other half is yellow, again from another light perspective. It's really nice. It's just really well designed, I think.
Yeah, and Francavilla does his own colors here as well. This page is all himself, and if we sort of move into what's saying here, immediately the shift in tone, writing by Lemire, of just sort of how serious Lockley is talking about the scum oozing, and that he's not delusional, and something creeping over the city. It's very much set up to be that noir, the seedy underbelly, the very sort of serious tone. There's no sort of sweet foil with Marlene and their regular conversation, but we do get a bit of a character popping up here in Crawley.
In Crawley, yeah, and just going on from your other point, yeah, he's very much a loner, isn't he? Like, he hasn't got Marlene with him. He's just cruising the streets in the cab. The only interaction he has is either looking at what's outside or picking up customers. But yeah, Crawley pops up here, and again, consistent with Lemire's previous arc, Crawley seems to know, have a better perspective about what is happening overall. Because he immediately asks Jake, what you don't remember, and Crawley goes, "What do you mean?" I mean, sorry, Jake goes, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "We were, well, he basically says that we were in hospital and we broke out." He's basically retelling the tale from the first arc. I just want to slightly go back, Connor, as well, just to flip from the Stephen Grant to Jake Lockley, and the bit where it gets weird is that the lettering turns blue, and we know that's Lockley speaking. So on the previous page with a shot of Stephen Grant, it says, "Stephen Grant is too soft for what comes next. So I leave him back at the mansion and hit the streets as Jake Lockley." So is this Jake Lockley that we're seeing now, is that one in the same as Stephen Grant, or is it the cab driver that Stephen Grant was driving with? This is kind of the surreal situation that we're kind of put in.
Yeah, no, I was entirely confused by this, and just in the next 2 pages post this, we'll see another twist in the mystery. But I went immediately to assuming that, I guess it was Jake Lockley, but that color tone almost seemed to suggest that, that almost look at another reality.
Yeah.
Lemire's just messing with us.
He is, yeah. It's a good sort of messing. So yeah, as we move ahead past that splash page, he has more of a conversation with Crawley, and Crawley mentions we escaped from the hospital, as I said, and he said the hospital's for the mentally ill, and he cites the other members. He says Frenchie, you, me, Marlene, and Gina. We escaped through the subways. A bit more of a realistic portrait there of Crawley, I think, from Francavilla. Different from his usual style. Really nice. But one of the things I took from this, Connor, this page, was I loved his almost horror element at that final panel at the bottom. He goes from blue and yellow, but that last page, it's a big zoom, a close-up of Crawley's eyes, of almost fear or terror in them, and it's just a hot red or orange. I liked how that kind of just shifted all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think this page especially just got me with Francavilla's facial work. It's just beyond incredible with the, every single aspect of their face tells what they're thinking, shows the actual person. And that build up to that final bit of red horror works from the start, where you see Lockley's and Crawley's face mostly covered in shadow in the first panel, and they sort of, still very much sit in that shadow until that last panel where he's screaming about, the fact that they fought the mummies in Anubis, and Crawley gave his soul only for Mark to not remember any of it. talking about, a very horrible sort of comment by Crawley that now he's lost and it's all
Yeah.
been for nothing.
Yeah, hence the terror in his eyes. It's kind of like he paid a massive price for Lockley or Moon Knight to escape that. But then he's confronted with Jake, remembering nothing of it at all. So, yeah, you can imagine the terror, and it was it's just quite shocking at the bottom because, yeah, I find it a massive shift.
Yeah, there's no build up or anything. It's just straight red. Just like moves from the blue and yellow to the red.
Yeah, yeah. So really good. So if we go to the next page, again the facial expressions of Francavilla, pretty good. Like we got a perplexed kind of look from Jake. So you're not making any sense, Crawley. I was at Gina's diner an hour ago, and I've never been in any hospital. And there's also almost a look of resignation on Crawley's face.
Yeah.
And I goes, "Oh, don't you understand? Because you're actually in the hospital now. This is all like a figment of your imagination." And then the next panel pretty much probably sums up what we're kind of feeling as well. It's he's pinching the bridge of his nose, Lockley, just like, I can't make any sense of this. And that slight moment where he closes his eyes, he opens them again, and Crawley's gone. So, again, mystery upon mystery. The layout work here, Connor, I think is still pretty standard. It's just 3 panels at the top profiling the faces. And then just one where Crawley disappears, and then the bottom half of the page changes perspective totally, and you're kind of looking from above, looking down. So anyway, Lockley gets out, and he doesn't know what's going on. So the only way to get to the bottom of it is to turn into, it's time for Moon Knight. So he opens his boot, and we see the costume there.
Yeah, and I think actually Crawley makes a very dire warning to Mark, Jake, whoever sort of is now in this weird, Stephen possibly in this weird reality shifting that oh Jake, my boy, don't you understand? You're in the hospital right now. Lockley's call to action to be Moon Knight just because everything's not right.
Yes, yeah.
I just love sort of just opening the trunk to get out the suit as if no one could just walk past and see that.
It's very classic, isn't it? It's very Munch. You see that in a lot of the volume ones of. It seems like, well, it makes sense. It seems like Lockley always has a spare costume handy at the boot. And Stephen Grant from that last issue that we saw with Morpheus, he's wearing the suit underneath his normal clothes, because you know how he does almost a Superman of runs out with it, and Mark Spector, I guess, who knows, I think he just gets changed in a change room somewhere. But yeah, this is very typical of Lockley to have a costume in the boot. So we flick from this page at the bottom, and as we turn the page, we're met with a similar perspective, but all of a sudden we're back to Torres's art.
Yeah, very, very amazing shift from seeing Lockley opening the boot, looking down to the suit, to cutting to Stephen just looking at his his dress suit for the big event tonight at the Mercy Hospital.
And this is very interesting in the fact that it's real time. From when you turn the page to the next page, it's exactly what Jake Lockley / Stephen Grant is experiencing. So as you turn the page, we see Stephen Grant now standing in front of his white suit, and he says, "What is this?" Like, he goes, "I was somewhere else. I was in a cab, and there was this old man." So the time it took for us to turn the page is the time it took that he's suddenly, whisked back as Stephen Grant. And so we see more of him and Marlene. I like that third panel, Connor. Actually, again, you look at the faces there, just the posture of Marlene. She doesn't say anything in that, but the way she's standing and the angle, it kind of looks like what the hell are you talking about, Stephen? So, the talent of Torres shows there. But they're back in the hotel room, right? And Marlene's just kind of trying to calm him down, saying that he's probably had an anxiety dream. And she's asking him if he's taken any of his medication. So a clearly confused Stephen Grant, and yet again Marlene dealing with the craziness and trying to bring things back, steady the ship.
Yeah, and we see the final panel referring to Stephen's meds that he's having to take. So just more mystery.
Has he ever? I can't recall him taking. Medication apart from being forced medication in the first arc, right?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, throughout Moon Knight, he's never been prone to take any medication to control his personalities. The only ones I can think of is when Billy and Bobby force it upon him. So this might be residual, I guess, from his time in the mental institution. So, I mean, again, a lot of the panel layouts here are quite standard, I think, because the driver for this part of the issue is more, I guess, conversation and interaction between Stephen and Marlene. So the dialogue kind of and the story kind of come to the fore here. So the next page, they get out the meds. And Stephen can't remember if he's taken them or not. But Marlene says, you'll be fine. Let's get dressed. Just make sure you take them even when you're feeling okay. So she's kind of steadying everything, the calming influence. And Stephen, he says thank you. So finally, she gets some sort of recognition and validation that she's doing well. And Stephen says something very sweet. I don't know what I'd do without you. And she says, neither do I. So they get ready to go to this gala event, which is basically, in summary, they've decided to hold an event at the mental institution to promote the mental awareness and obviously to promote his film as well. So we turn the page and we have a very familiar setting.
Yeah. Mercy Hospital is the hospital we found ourselves in the first arc. The very sort of built inside a railway hospital. You see in a very good setup by the background, made to contrast the colours of everyone in their suits. You see the greys and the greens and the almost sort of brown colours of this strange hospital we found ourselves in earlier.
Yeah, you'd I know you kind of almost get like a mental shudder to be back here. It's just because, oh gosh, this is where it started, and they fought so hard to get out of here, and it's kind of like it's kind of like a scary place, and I think you can kind of see that with Stephen's first look as he's standing there. Again, I'm sure these are the faces of Marvel employees, but yeah, Stephen's standing there and he's looking a little unsure himself. So he kind of reflects what the readers, I'm imagining, thinking as well. So there's a big gala event. They all look very rich and very wealthy, evening gowns and stuff. So Stephen takes a sip, and as we see the panel, it's a nice transition of perspective. He takes a sip out of his whiskey, and then you see a shot from behind him, looking at where he's looking at. And it's Marlene just engaged in banter with a cocktail with other people. So everything seems to be business as usual. And then all of a sudden he has a question asked at him, and he turns around, and we have two familiar faces here. Oh
no! Yeah. The worst of the lot.
Yeah, and again, I don't know about you, Connor, but you kind of have a sinking feeling. It's like, oh gosh, we're here again. Gosh. These are the wardens. So there's a little bit of trepidation, a little bit, oh gosh, Stephen could be in trouble here. But they're just the waiters.
Yeah, there's no sinister aspect behind them. They're just the waiters trying to give Stephen some hors
hors
I don't know how
d'oeuvres.
there we go.
Yeah, it's just some hors d'oeuvres, and he declines politely, but they kind of press him a little as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
Like, don't we know you? And this is where, as a reader, you're probably thinking, oh, hang on,
No.
something's going to happen here, because whenever Billy and Bobby interact with Mark Spector, it's usually violent. You know, they usually drag him away, they give him shock therapy. But, you know, having said that, this is Stephen Grant, so surely they can't do any harm to him. He actually organised this whole gala event. So anyway, Bobby keeps on asking, do I know you? And Stephen, being, I guess, an upper class snob in a way, just says, no, get back to work. You know, he has no time for them. So he leaves them behind, and he approaches Marlene and wants to have a little bit of a powwow. And so we turn the page, and again he's a little bit confused. He's asking Marlene, what's going on here? Why are we here for this event?
Or in a damned mental institution.
Yeah, throwing in because it is a very strange thing. But Marlene says, "Well, Stephen, it's your idea. You know, you wanted to break down all the stigma about mental illness." And she makes a revelation as well, because, you know, you were a patient here as well. So things are starting to tie back into that first arc, and I guess we're kind of getting dragged back into it. You know, if we think about that last arc, he kind of released himself, right? He jumped off, he released himself from Khonshu, but now when he wakes up, he's still very much connected to this reality which he thought was not real.
Yeah, it's sort of it was kind of cool. We got spotted bits of, you know, Stephen's memory playing up, and then Crawley giving a dire warning to Jake. And now, you know, in this sequence, you know, we've had, you know, the introduction of Meds, the hospital, Billy and Bobby, and now that he was a patient, you know, it's sort of been, you know, littered across, but now it's just sort of all falling down in this one section if you think of it cut up into the transitions.
Yeah, it's and there's a little bit of work on this panel here with a close up of Stephen when he asks Marlene what you're talking about, and it's just black, obviously, to just focus on Stephen's confusion. But then it's immediately kind of countered with we see a shot of the director of Stephen's movie, you know, just reassuring Stephen, you know, although we stuffed up a bit today with the film, you know, we'll get it all done tomorrow. And he's all kind of happy chappy. But Stephen says, no, you won't. And he basically fires Nick, which doesn't go down well. And on the next page, you see pointing fingers towards Stephen, and a bit of swearing as well. Do you know what VMAs are, Connor, by any chance?
No, there must be some sort of award.
Because the director's, you know, going, you bloody bugger. He goes, I won 4 VMAs last year, but, you know, whatever.
Stephen ain't having it.
Exactly. And we get a return to almost his silhouette, but his silhouette in white. And I like this kind of idea, because
Spectre.
it gives that whole Spectre vibe, and just kind of reminds us that, you know, he's Moon Knight, and, you know, he's kind of set apart from others. Again, we just get then Marlene chasing him down, and saying how proud she is of him. So she's ever the supporting partner, but Stephen's not feeling too well, so he needs a bit of air, and Marlene says, well, you know, do you want me to come along as well? Mark. And she actually refers to him as Mark.
Yeah, here we go. Sort of more indication this world's almost falling apart.
So again, for the reader, and again for Stephen, we're pretty much in Stephen's shoes. It's kind of, hang on, what did you call me? And Marlene fobs it off as look, sorry, that was, you know, working on the film, running lines with Mark Spector, just a slip up, nothing wrong. So anyway, Stephen leaves Marlene, and he goes out through the fire exit, it seems, and bang.
This entirely just cut to an entirely different world, and outside of our world, actually, in our this moon base of Mark Spector, Space Marine.
Yeah, this is really cool. I had to post this up on Tumblr as one of those big, WTF moments. You mentioned, Connor, about Francavilla having a lot of franticness to it. This is brilliant, because not only the details, but to me it reminded me almost of like Starship Troopers, and because you got Frenchie shouting at him, going, come on, we got to go, and there are these multiple moon jets in the background. There's machinery. There are people getting in, pilots getting in. There's a huge hangar door opening up, and just all of a sudden, it's not only Marlene and Stephen anymore. It's not only two people. And if you flick back to the page before, detail is starting to become more sparse, right? It's only just Marlene and Stephen. There's just colour in the background. There's close-up, so you basically got, a door frame and some walls. But then you turn the page and you feel exactly like what I'd imagine Stephen would feel. You feel like you're dropped in to this thing that you've just got to react to. So it's good to see Frenchie there. So Frenchie's alive.
Yeah.
And they all seem to be part of some sort of moon army.
Yeah, I love sort of immediately, just that immediate space look of this all grey, a bit of blue and yellow hues, but it's real grey, factory-like. Just almost a conveyor belt of these ships being hauled in and out, built, and these pilots placed in. It's
very like Stokoe. I think he's currently Dark Horse have released Alien Dead Orbit with Stokoe, and his art just suits that so well. I think, if you think of James Cameron's Aliens movie, that kind of down and dirty, futuristic space arena, and this is what I get with this as well. This is kind of the same kind of feel, and they've got to go off fighting something. So again, Mark, it is Mark now, because his partner in crime's always Frenchie. He's just totally confused. He's going, who's coming? Who are we fighting? And he's asking all this as they're getting into to their moon jet. And Frenchie's just going, well, come on, just snap out of it. Frenchie hasn't got any French accent, I noticed.
Yeah, true.
Well. He generally has a very dodgy French accent conveyed, with a lot of Z's and such. But as soon as Mark gets his helmet on, he seems to know what he's doing. He's going, mission control, this is Moon Knight 1, requesting launch clearance. So he seems to know what he's meant to be doing.
Yeah, this was sorry to sort of interject, just sort of an interesting part we've seen with all of these, that they get confused by living in that previous reality, but then they have all their memories of the current reality there, and this Mark Spector remembers what happened previously here, but as soon as he's there, he's back like it was just a bad dream. This is who he is. He's lived his life as this Moon Knight pilot.
It's like almost he's lost his. It's almost like he's retained his long-term memory, which is his skills at being a pilot or being in this world, but just briefly his short-term memory is just clonked out, and it's like what's happening? Who's coming? So it's and it happens with Stephen Grant and Jake Lockley as well, I imagine. But good point. He retains a lot of his abilities. Because I guess if he didn't, there wouldn't be much to it. He'd be like a bit of a useless character, right?
Total wreck.
So it looks like they shoot out of the moon, because you can only assume that it is the moon. And we finally come up to the last page, and it's a fleet of red again, Connor. So red.
Once
evil,
again
the motif of red being something evil or something bad. The big bad. And then we've got here General Lupinar. He seems to be the leader of this pack, and he proclaims the Space Wolves will take the moon. So, to be continued.
Yeah, what an ending.
It's like, what the?
Yeah, it's very sort of like 80s sci-fi, 80s anime sci-fi. You know, they're all pilots. They've all got their big, cedar with their like flight sticks, and he's got the robotic eye, and
yeah, he's got some screws coming out of his forehead. It's a nice design here by Stoko.
Yeah.
I really do like it. So I guess we'll see more of him, and this again ties back to the Space Wolves we saw in the previous issue. Wondering, who are they? They obviously are bad.
Yeah, this was a bit interesting. Those ones we saw were really just sort of actual wolves. They didn't seem to have any like super intelligence, but these are
true.
more humanoid, and
They are, yeah, they are. Obviously speaking, and yeah, this general looks totally different from the other Space Wolves that we saw prior. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But what an issue to kick off a new arc. A lot of things introduced there, but also the questions just keep on coming.
yeah, man, sorry, yeah, I think what a way to end. Stoko didn't even have. He had 3 pages this entire issue, but they leave such a mark. And once again, Stoko drew, colored, inked all this as well. All him.
So I do. That is really cool. I mean, like, nothing against other colorists and stuff, but when you have an artist similar to Christian Ward as well in the current Black Bolt, when you have artists that have a vision themselves and they take control of the tools like the coloring and the inking and the penciling, it is really kind of a treat. It's the same with the Francavilla. Like, he obviously, what he draws, he has in mind already the kind of colors and the tone he wants to imprint. Yeah, so it's really, really cool. Yeah, I think Stoko, he's only got 3 pages, but it probably took him a month to do all this. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you look at these things, and most of the time we gloss over them, but imagine the amount of work and the amount of time gone into drawing it. It's crazy.
Backpack we see in like the first opening pages.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, Mr. Connor.
Oh.
Rating-wise, what would you rate this?
Oh, it's a very good issue as always. But it was sort of a lot of conversation. It didn't have sort of the big sort of powwow we had in the last sort of 2 issues until the Stoko ending, which sort of blew my mind. I love Stoko. I love that aesthetic, but all the artists here. Francavilla, Torres, their own looks, their own colors, how Lemire used that to write such a surreal and no idea story.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of as the setup to what this crazy arc will be. I think I'll give it a 4 out of 5 crescent darts. Maybe a 4.5, yeah.
Oh, okay. Lovely. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. Actually, I did enjoy it. I mean, although we had the artists in the previous issue, having them here on again and fleshing out a bit more of the Stephen Grant, I like the interaction between Stephen Grant and Marlene, as well as the head spinning moments of the Space Wolves. Good to see Crawley again. I think I still will. I'll give this a big 6 out of 5. Connor. Crescent Darts. I really enjoyed it. Just the art is just superb, and I love that whole meta thing with Lemire at the beginning. I remember first reading that when the issue came out, and it's like, oh, this is so clever. It's so funny. Clever and funny. It's just really, really good. So yeah, I can't go past it. And it being a fresh start as well, I think it's a great first part to a new series. I'm trying to imagine it for a new reader. If you were to not know anything about the first arc, Connor, and you picked this up, would it? How would you take it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be, I'd
Like,
love to see it. I think it'd be interesting to see someone's take if they could, because
mm,
I think it really would be like just sort of someone throwing you in a deep end with two little narrative clues, but it almost sort of work.
yeah. Because I'm just wondering if you need to read that first arc or not. Maybe not.
I mean, you should. This is
You
really
should,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, definitely should. But yeah, I think it's still quite standalone. And based, I mean, they're just questions aplenty anyway, so it doesn't matter, I guess, if you're if you're a long-term reader or just jumping on board there. But yeah, you'd be kind of wondering what is going on. But yeah, 6 out of 5 for me, kind of.
Just all great issues. All
All
so
great
in love.
issues. Yes. Also, Connor, there was a review from one of our loonies.
Yes, a very one of our big partakers in the group. Into the Night, our Moon Knight fan base on
Hmm.
Facebook, but he actually commented this on our WordPress page, which if you do comment, we'll see all the time. We'll get on the show. Yes,
Hmm.
Adam says,
Hmm.
"Wow, what a great issue! I love the different art styles used to convey the different personalities and lifestyles of Stephen, Jake, and Mark. Stephen's pages are filled with very clean, crisp art. It makes things very put together, happy, predictable. Stephen Marlene mentoring superhero fatigue online, and the Ant-Man movie kind of breaks the fourth wall and makes the Stephen scenes more realistic than the others.
Hmm.
Then we find that the realism of the Stephen scenes actually seems to be the Matrix, so to say, and the real Red Pill world is that world that Jake is describing in the beautiful street art style pages, where he's the main character. This is the coolest art in the book to me. The lights are typical Yellow City lights. The shadows are blue, and there is pink thrown in there to really make it seem almost like graffiti.
Mm.
And at this point, who the heck knows what's going on with Mark? The art changes to a very technical style, most popular with sci-fi stories. And this is a sci-fi story to say the least. We've never seen the werewolves, like this before. All in all, what a crazy and magnificent issue. 5 out of 5 crescent arts from him.
Yeah, wow. Thank you, Adam. And
Yes.
some very good points there. Like the pink thrown in there. Yeah, true. To almost like graffiti. So you've got very much a street kind of feel to it. As we mentioned, the Ant-Man movie and breaking the fourth wall from Steve and Grant's world is was very cool and it made it realistic. But yeah, to then find the realism of the Steven scenes, like the Matrix
Yeah,
compared
red pill,
to
good term.
yeah, it's a good term. Is a great point. I think. Also, yeah, the last thing with Mark of what the hell's going on. Yeah, sci-fi stories. It just it's strange, isn't it, Connor? Because Mark Spector, the character, really has no ties
Yeah,
to
whatsoever. He's
science
so
fiction.
grounded.
No, he's more as we've seen previously, more into military background. He's a mercenary. Had nothing to do with sci-fi, so this is kind of like a flip. And definitely, Adam, I agree with you. It's kind of what the hell's going on, but it's such a fun thing that you just gotta buckle up and just go along with it. And yeah, 5 crescent darts from him, crazy
Yeah.
and magnificent. Totally agree.
And I was looking for a word before, but he totally captured it. Torres art was real, sort of clean and crisp. That was
Mm.
a good way to put it, of sort of showing almost our sort of real world.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think the three artists chosen perfectly cast. Artists. I think Torres well suited to Stephen Grant's. Stoko to get that feel is just totally kind of out there. And for the cab driver Jake Lockley, for someone that's on the streets and is the street connection, his art just suits it so well. I can't imagine them flipping and doing each other's
Oh no.
because their style just is so well suited. So whoever made that call, brilliant. Jake Thomas is probably the editor. He probably did it. Yeah, but absolutely brilliant. So thanks once again, Adam. And as Connor said, loonies out there and listeners, get your comments in. We love to read them out, and we're available on many social sites. Yeah. Before we get into those details, I
Yeah.
guess next week we will continue our review of this. So Lemire's Moon Knight Volume 8, Issue 7, which is Part 2 of Incarnations. We'll see what becomes of General Lupinar and that crazy sci-fi world. We'll see what happens to Stephen and Jake as well. The artists are pretty much retained, aren't they, Connor?
Yes. Always.
Yep. So same. I can't remember if Smallwood makes a return for that issue or not, but 3 artists. That's plenty. So looking forward to going back to our usual format of reviewing that. So we'll get the bare bones for that. We'll get our 4 aspects, and we'll do our rating. We'll also be returning to a character spotlight. So we'll be looking at, due to popular demand, we'll be doing a stained glass Scarlet spotlight. So a very mysterious character, Connor. Are you much familiar with her, or?
No, actually. She was very much a latecomer to my Moon Knight knowledge, going back through Volume 1, and I think she has quite a bit to do in Mark Spector Moon Knight.
She does as well.
I haven't read that, sadly.
Yeah. She returns to it, and she remains in that impressively vague in whether she's good or bad. She's very mysterious in the fact that we'll get into it in the character spotlight, but she has a bond with Moon Knight, which kind of comes out and is not really explained, but very much looking forward to getting into that character spotlight. And to go with that as well, we'll also be doing a second book review, and that will be of Stained Glass Scarlet's introduction.
So 24, Volume 1.
Yeah, so that is just after a couple of your favourite issues of Morpheus, Connor.
Yeah.
So we'll unfortunately just leapfrog them, but we'll go into Stained Glass Scarlet, we'll get right into it. And there's also a third thing, Connor, for next week.
Yes, we are finally debuting our own third co-host. Rebecca will be joining us for the entire episode to dig into these issues and the spotlight, and hopefully some good news next week.
Definitely, I absolutely cannot wait. It will be really cool to have Rebecca with us. She currently drops into the Immortal Iron Fist podcast. So for any Iron Fist fans out there, along with Moon Knight fans, please go check that out. It's a really cool podcast. That's hosted by Rebecca, another Connor from another universe, and Carl. So really cool. And also she drops in on the Defenders podcast as well, which is hosted by Claire and her stalwart team of Defenders. So that's about it for today, Connor.
Yeah, where can they find us, Ray?
Yeah, so just finally, you can definitely find us on a lot of things. We have an email at it's moonknightpodcast@gmail.com, so just drop us a line there, or we're available on Facebook. We have a page, facebook.com/ITK Moon Knight. We have a Facebook group. Please check that out. There's a lot of loonies there that we really do love interacting with, and that's at facebook.com/groups/into the night with a K. We have Twitter as well, at ITK Moon Knight. We also are on SoundCloud. We also are on most of all the good podcast catches, so please check out our podcasts or our earlier ones if you haven't already. We also have an Instagram and Tumblr site as well, so just search for, I think it's ITK Moon Knight or ITK podcast, and that should come up as well. Also in the works, I'm trying to get us, Connor, on YouTube, so before long you'll be able to find us there as well. So plenty of ways to get in contact with us. Oh, finally as well, of course, the website, Into the Night podcast.wordpress.com. We have our posts there related to the podcast, so you can even just drop a comment there and we'll pick that up for sure. But always fun to hear from you. And also, just finally as well, if possible, and if you'd like, please give us a rating on Apple
always
iTunes.
appreciate it.
always appreciated. We have a few up there already, and thank you so much for the kind words. The more ratings we get, the more exposure we get to others out there. So we'd really like to kind of promote the Moon Knight army out there, especially with Netflix hopefully giving us what we all clamour for. Yeah. So so another good one. Any final words, Connor?
No, I think we're covered. I think it's another great episode. One issue. Well, good issue too. I hope you followed along with us as we sort of rambled on, but hopefully dissected well the panel by panel of issue 6.
Mm-hmm.
And we hope you can join us next week for our Spotlight issue 7 review, issue 24 review of the first volume with our co-host Rebecca. It'll be great.
Should be very great. And just to sign off, may Khonshu protect us from the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.